Thank you, well, for the opportunity of presenting something of what we have been doing in the last years in Peru for education, based in transforming some digital situations that have been running in the education in Peru. But since Fernando Figueroa and some other speakers yesterday talked about started saying about where do they come from, I am going to do the same thing now. So I wanted to just let you know that part of me comes from Cusco, from Maras, you know, have you heard Sal de Maras? Okay, from there, my father, great. Who comes from that side of Peru? No, not too many? Yeah, Cusco, great. Okay, because Arequipa yesterday was, too many foreign people yesterday, okay. And then on the other side, my mom comes from Trujillo. So I was born in Trujillo, but my heart is more there, but don't tell my mom. But I'm more close to that side. So that's my parents, and that's my family. Well, we were really raised on a family that my parents really educated us thinking on how we can really fight for justice in Peru, for more opportunities for everybody. So we really were, since very young, and especially I think me and that little gordito that you see on the right, were really very, very worried about how can we do from our sides, our different sides, how can we do some change, how can we really do some deep changes in our country. My father says that since I was very young, I was the hippie of the family. I think I'm still the hippie now, but well, in the good sense, of course, in the good sides of hippie. So I wanted to start telling you about different things where we have been working on using the digital transformation to make some deep changes in the economy and in the country in the different scenarios, right? So starting from, if we talk of the Sustainable Development Goals, you know, of the United Nations, now we have been working on Hambre Cero Peru. In the country, we are supposed to be selected to be the star country that is going to have zero hunger in 2030. So what does this has to do with education? Well, we really can start thinking about, and we have been working on this in some sense. We have started because 13% under 5 years old having chronic malnutrition is something that we have to really start running to make the Hambre Cero Peru. So two things that I wanted to put here. One is STEAM education to really work on healthy nutrition. And there is some group of people working on that. One of those is Carissa Becerra, that I really love her because she's doing such a great job. Imagine these names, Como. That's one part of the project. And the other is Saber Comer. Through science, teach the children how to, through science and this STEAM approach, STEAM education, how to teach children to love what the crops that are growing in their home, in their agricultural economy or really small place to raise crops, and they are really doing a great job there. And the other one is something that I asked my friend Benito Juarez. Who knows Benito Juarez? Okay, great. Benito Juarez is this, he has a story that I can tell you after this, but because of the time, but Benito is working with Fab Lab. He has the Fab Lab Lima in Peru, and he was building designing something to have some specific nutrition profile for each person that can need to know exactly what are the nutrients that each one needs. So I asked him, why don't you, instead of working on that as a business thing, why don't you think about finding the specific nutrients that you can put together and design and fabric those nutrients to put end to the hunger, to really work on the zero hunger in Peru as quick as possible, to really have 0 children under 5-year-old with chronic malnutrition. So they are starting to do some things on that. Of course, there is some countries that are working on that too in the research and science centers, right? So well, then the other thing where I'm more focused on, I'm working on that for years, for 22 years, working on technology in education. But then when I went to the Ministry of Education to work with Jaime Saavedra, we started saying, okay, well, let's see what is going on. So 9% schools, 0 electricity. 11% teachers, 0 digital skills, not at all. Never having the opportunity of touching a computer or really, and seeing how some OLPCs were coming to their schools, but with no electricity. So they were saying, okay, if you don't have electricity, you have to receive the computers, but you can't use them, so you cannot have a training because it's not a need. So, and then 45% of students with 0 tech time at school. Nothing really happening in 45% of the public schools. Of course, I'm all talking about public schools, but it's not a matter of access. We perhaps are the champions in public systems that have received Lego education for public schools, then the OLPCs, then a portfolio of different devices, whiteboards, et cetera, that we have been receiving, but IADB, CAF, World Bank, doing research, studying the impact, and you're saying, oh no, there's no impact, so then technology is not working to solve some problems. So, I mean, I think that the questions were wrong to start to see how we can really transform education through the correct usage of technology. So, the first thing, we were working in 2 layers. To design the Estrategia Nacional de Tecnologías Digitales en la Educación Básica del Perú, we started thinking that, we have 2 missions here. So we have to work in these 2 layers, right? The first one has to be of closing the digital divide. So we define milestones per year. We only had 5 years on that moment. It was 2016 till 2021, we were going to be working on that. And then on the other side, while we are closing the digital divides, we have to work on innovation. We have to really start doing a model of tech in education and education in technology, right? So that's what we were working on. So the milestones, of course, the first one had to be to do something with those 11% teachers that haven't ever had the opportunity to touch a computer, at least like a right for them, really, like the opportunity of being considered, of being really part of all the education system. So we call that para TIC, para ti docente, that you have never done anything with the TICs. That's the program for them. So we were supposed to be closing, but you know, politics in our countries, 4 ministers in around 1 year. Well, you know that story more than me. So that's something. Then the digital kit, closing digital divide, closing the digital divide of digital kit. Each school must have a digital kit, at least to do something. Everybody, every teacher, at least do something with technology, with their students, because they already are familiar with the main usage of technology. Then connectivity, of course, we cannot have in each school in 2019 connectivity, but we can think about ways, for example, tambos. Tambos is this, we have 500 tambos in Peru that have connectivity, that are strategically based in some places where at least they can walk not 5 hours to get to connectivity, they can walk perhaps 2 hours, and we are working more and more on that. Students, the access of to technology to really address the challenges, the learning challenges for each children, to have the right of doing at least something per week with technology at school. That's something. And then what we call the inteligencia digital, the digital intelligence model of everybody in the ecosystem, in the education ecosystem, doing things that ministries, the UHELs, the administration organization that we all have, and all the community doing something with the knowledge of how to use technology, how to create things with technology, how to learn with technology, and how to do, why not, startups, technology startups. Okay, so different stages, of course, maturing, incubating, aligning, implementing, and operating. That was the layer of digital device closing. So what will we do? We prepared this with people, some of them from MIT. Does anybody know Eduardo Marisca? Eduardo Marisca, yeah, Irene, you know Eduardo, and some other people know Eduardo Marisca, and some other people coming from another universities came to the ministry and said, okay, I want to help on this. So we started development. I always say the leader has to be of the decade de los 60s, like me, but all the team, they really have to be of different generations, millennials, Generación Z, and some from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. So we were a very nice group that we were working together on this. And we started dreaming about having something that takes in public, in government times. It was like a dream, a crazy dream at the beginning. When I took this to Jaime Saavedra, he was saying, what did you smoke? What are you smoking? Because he was like, it's impossible, you know, talking about 2 to 4 weeks to do something really to get to the next stage and scale, to do scalability, you know, to get to in 24 weeks to a great scale for everybody. That was what we really were planning to do, and we have to think in that way, this new paradigm of exponential education with exponential technologies for the exponential works and so on. So the experimentos were not something pretending to discover why birds fly. The experimentos for us had to be something based on evidence on countries from Finland, first in education, to projects that had a lot of budget in Africa, for example, that have results to present. Okay, let's take that and contextualize and do the adjustment that we need to do, but the experimento starts in that way, not the experimento to think something. I have an idea, but I haven't done any research about if that is going on in somewhere else. No, when we have all the knowledge, then we can really start an experimento in exploring 2 to 4 weeks, and then get to the what we call the school life, to have this project really for everybody, right? That was the goal. So, well, what is EPT? Educación para el Trabajo, but really in education for working. Is that what we're doing in our country? Many countries in the region have bachillerato, the baccalaureate degree till 18 years old, but we only have 2 years, right? They finish school at 17 years old, 16 or 17 years old in our country. So we really have to run. We have to put the students with some skills rather than just what we have traditionally been doing for them. So what we don't have anything still, except for some specific projects coming from NGOs that work with the ministry. We have just few things that we can really say that they are having generations of students that have the skills to do something different than really being able to just clean a house to survive. So high school to higher education, we're working on that. So we have to really work on these 3 layers. I want to present here some specific opportunities for you, perhaps for thinking about startups, but are part of an umbrella, a logical umbrella that we have to build together, right? So high school to higher education, all these paths that we really have to be working on, that starts with the layer of the basic layer, the digital skills, to have students that are really digital intelligent, critical thinkers that can really act in the correct way when technology is a lie for them to do things better, right? So, and the tech updating the careers. We really have to work on that, and some universities are doing that. Well, it's not a propaganda for UCIL, but UTEC and UCIL, for example, are working really hard on that to put, okay, what technology has to be involved in these careers? We cannot keep the careers as traditional as they have been for decades, right? So, and of course, the third layer is exponential tech careers. We have to include more and more careers. We have to start talking about ciencia de la computación as one science that includes different areas, and cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and data science, of course, all that. But we really have to have a program as for the public education in Peru that we are a little late for that still. Higher education with a distance learning. You know, I had the opportunity of working with a little research that they asked me, because there is a law in Peru that says 50% of any long distance career must have traditional education, presential life education, that students have to come. So that's not long distance learning, of course. And when you start doing a little research about what is going on in the world, I mean, it's anti-historic, against the trend totally, to think that we can have 50% as a must to have a long distance. Why was that? Because, well, there were many universities that were opening with long distance without any quality standards and so, but that was the best way to really control the quality on those universities, wasn't to put the 50% for all the ones that could be doing a very good long distance. So that's something that we have to change. My proposal was that, my vision was, we have to really see what is going on outside, and outside they're saying every career, any profession, any program, any study program in a university must have at least 20% or 30% of long distance or virtual education. So that's the trend, so we have to really change that and recover that. Nanos for ninis, that's a word I invented about nano courses for ninis. That's something that is really an opportunity for any of you that would like. I saw Platzi, CADE Digital, did anybody hear about CADE Digital? We built that, we are in a committee, Digital Transformation, Peru Digital. So we made the first CADE Digital, and the people, and there was Platzi, a guy from Colombia, I think, and he's in Japan, and he has built something like that. But I think we have to start thinking about something of these nano courses for the ni estudian ni trabajan generation, right? So, well, I wanted to talk about Inglés Puertas al Mundo just to let you know that when we started this program, this is a multi-sectorial, this is a national policy, this is for all the citizens in Peru, that we were dreaming of having every Peruvian, at least with the English language for all, what we call the English language, el inglés de la calle, de todos, para ser un país more competitive country. So we couldn't do this just with the teachers that we have. 77% of the Peruvian English teachers are teachers that don't know how to say what's your name in English, okay? Because they are not English teachers. It's just that they have some hours left. Oh, so go to teach English. That's how it was evaluated in the secondary education. So when we started with this, we knew we had to really have technology as a good ally for the teacher to base their English language, and the neuroscientific approach of doing how you can really practicing with artificial intelligence, speech recognition system, engine, to really make students have that communicative English. And we started working on that, but it was unaffordable because we had to spend so many $1 million for just 1 million students, that it was really impossible to scale, to make it with a great scale. So what we started thinking, was about, okay, let's do the platform and the app and all the solution with artificial intelligence, the Peruvian one. So this is something that also, it's an opportunity for anybody that would like to do. It's not just a matter of doing what Duolingo is offering for free and the other one is offering for free, and so we can do something like that, but it's not enough, so we really would like to think about that, and so that's another opportunity. Then another thing I wanted to share with you, and it has to deal also with what is happening in Peru. When I started, the first day I went to the ministry to work, it was my first experience in the government. I asked Jaime Saavedra, who in this building is in charge of the students that do not go to school because of poverty? And he said, nobody in this building, because it's not something that education, the Ministry of Education has to work on. How come? Well, he said, well, start looking if you can perhaps have an idea about that. So, well, that's true, but many other countries in the region have a program to make students, to make families really send their children. Some is mandatory. If you do not send your children, you might be punished, or if you send your children, you will have some money to make them get to the school, or to not to have to dedicate time in the agricultural, familiar economy, and so on and so. So well, then I wanted to talk to you, to share with you about this, because the World Bank report is talking today about the learning crisis. What is this, right? Schooling is not synonymous of learning. Yeah, because in the United Nations millennials goals years ago, the main thing was to take more and more children to school, to make children get to school. So they did a lot of strategies in many countries, and it worked. Many, many millions of children started going to school. But then the problem was that, and what is called a learning crisis, that we could see that only 25%, I think, of all these students that started going to school were acquiring the minimum competency, the minimum skills they needed to survive when they leave school, right? So that's what is called learning crisis. So then, now, the thing today, instead of having more access to school, they are taking care much more in quality in education. Okay, but quality in education if you qualify as a student. So all the efforts are, again, in the school. But then what happens with the 2,060 million children that do not qualify as students today because of poverty reasons? They cannot send children to school. And in Peru, we have 500,000, around 500,000, perhaps more than that, that are not going to school because of poverty. So that's when I really started thinking in this model, homeschooling for poor. And technology is the best ally for us, really, to have this model working on. Because, of course, it's not only that we're going to give them a device and we have to solve a problem at least once a week of connectivity, and all what we want them to learn. So we are solving this, we have to solve this, thinking in a homeschooling for the poor. And the what are they going to learn? All what we want. The great thing is that we can start this as our social organizations, and then we can demonstrate the government that why not, with half of the time they will spend to get to school, they can learn perhaps double of what they were learning in that learning crisis scenario, and why not spending perhaps 30 or 40 or 50% less than what is the cost per student for the government, for the system per year. So that's something that we're working on. We're a small group, but everybody is welcome to start with more and more ideas of what we have to do. So the where and the what is here, but then the how. How are we going to do? Well, for me, who is this? Who knows this guy down there, up there? Seymour Papert from here. He's the, who is Seymour Papert? Somebody heard about Seymour Papert? No? Okay, you must hear about Seymour Papert, because Seymour Papert is the, yes, the person that, this guy is from MIT, and he's the one that first imagined that computers can go to school to do programming. The first way to get computers in a school was with this Lego logo, the little turtle, the programming turtle with the logo language and so. That was the first moment where computers started to go to a school, and it was born here. It was raised, it was the idea was here in MIT. So he has been my inspiration. He died, I think he passed away like 2 years or a year and a half ago. And he took this all over the world. In Vietnam, Costa Rica. Costa Rica is now very good in technology and education because of Seymour Papert. He adopted a lot of things there. And well, Ecuador was another country, and some other countries in Latin America started with a logo program that he designed, and then his inspiration of OLPCs and so on. So well, the how, we really have to make like a deal with moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas at home to see what is they're going to be the role for each of them, you know, like asking, listening, warming, encouraging, and so. That's many of those parents might not even know how to read and to write, so they can also learn. So we can also have a family solution to make all the family learn with this device and with what we are going to put in there, not only the content in a better way, but also we can start thinking on all these artificial intelligence solutions that we can put in. And of course, we need someone, there is a teacher. The teacher has to go to the home, but not daily. Perhaps we can find a way to have the Chasquis teachers, the Chasqui profe going every Friday, for example. And then the tambo, there is a tambo close to their home, closer than the school that is 3 hours far, but the tambo might be half hour far, and they can go once a week and so on. So that's something we're working on, and we call this Propósito Perú. 0 niños sin aprender al 2030. That's what we are working on. And we are in the, let's say, the first stage, but we're having more and more people interested. And then I would like just to finish saying that if we're dreaming on Peru to be a country, a first world country, or we're dreaming to have a country that we are appearing in rankings, we made football possible, but we love to be, you know, scaling in rankings, the happiest country or one of the top 10 happiest countries, home for everybody, water for every home, zero hunger, zero poverty, pizza standards in education. There's a PISA test that we try to scale more and more, the best country to visit, the best place to eat. I think we will keep in our standard. A bilingual in English country in 2000 something, digital country, startup country, etc., etc., etc. What I would like to say you is really that it's great to know that we have so many Peruvians all over United States, doing startups, doing a lot of research, discovering things, thinking in Peru and organizing events like TECHSUYO, but we really need you all someday planning to go back to Peru. We really need a new generation to do the new política, la nueva política para un nuevo Perú, because we really, really are suffering this. The worst crisis that you know we're suffering is the political crisis, but it's not an excuse to say, oh, no, I won't dare because I don't like that moment that is happening in Peru. It's more a commitment that we all have to really go back some moment to be part of this a huge project called Peru. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question about how is there in this plan for improving education the coding for young students, or maybe for university, and in university, how to motivate the students to code? Because here in the US, there's a lot of initiatives that for school students in elementary also that start coding and making real big things, and also for women, no? Because historically women are not there are not too much women in coding. No? So what is the ministry, or what initiatives are in Peru?
Great. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much for the question, because I didn't have time to include, I didn't want to include that there because it's something that I've been talking about and it could be a big presentation. But when I mentioned their digital skills, that's something that we really are working on strongly in education, in the Ministry of Education, in the public education, about coding, starting from computational thinking, of course, but before that, there's something that could be, I really want you to start being a little worried about this, is what is called digital citizenship. That then it might be like redundant, is that the word? It exists, redundant, later, because it's just citizenship, right? Digital citizenship today, we are not working on that. We have some research on this. Students from 8 years old to 12 years old, they are having access to devices, and that's great, and they are genius sometimes, and we all as parents or our grandparents think that our children are incredible, but really we have to also take care about what means to really be a digital citizen today, and what do we have to work on that, and media, education, and all that. That's the first layer really that we have to worry about. And the second one, of course, starts with computational thinking. We have to work that with teachers. I love to find these computational thinking proposals that are not unplugged, computer science unplugged. Have you heard about that? Well, this is something that was created in MIT with Google, and some other organizations have created this because we don't need electricity to work computational thinking with our teachers. From the Amazonian rainforest, we can really work with them just with different, I don't know, papers or scissors or any recycling pieces or so. We can start that way, and we are starting to work on that. Okay, after closing the digital divide with the program Paratic, the next step is really starting with this program with digital citizenship, and at the same time, computational thinking, and with a STEAM approach. We will be working on that, and then coding for students, it's a must to really start including that, computational thinking by age, and then coding, all the children working with coding, like Scratch or another ones that we are introducing. We're working really on that, and then, of course, different programs. You know, we have social organizations. I think someone is going to present today, later, about Laboratoria, but we need more and more of those type of programs. Irene, I'm happy to know that she's going to be involved on something like that, and we need much more of that. And of course, fortunately, there are many organizations that are really starting to work on that to help the Ministry of Education. The good thing is that the Minister of Education, that was really far from this, he has not too much knowledge about these issues. We invited him to Cade Digital, and he came with a speech that was really new for him, but he was well prepared to express this vision, and he got so convinced that now is going to be a really very, very a good news for us, because he expressed this to the president, and so we are going to be working with a little budget to start really this program of working with coding with children since they're young. Okay.
Good morning, Mrs. Lucia. Congratulations. First, your presentation was very nice and inspiring to a lot of people. My question is the following. What do you think about la beca 18? I would like to know your opinion. And on the other hand, I would like to ask, I consider there is a big bridge between at the end of you finish your high school and go to the university. So, because sometimes in areas that is far away, I am from Iquitos, so go to the university to dream to be in engineering for me was a dream. So my question is, what do you think about the idea that also like a bachillerato or the press can be in Peru also sponsored by the government? So most of the people who go to finish the high school can go at least 1 year to bachillerato, and then they can easily try to apply to the universities, because also to sponsor parents sponsor for 1 year of this pre-academic is very expensive, so no many people can afford that. So this is just.
Thank you. Well, I think Beca 18 is really, really a must, and we have to put much more budget instead of reducing the budget that has been happening in the last years, right? So I think that's a great way to give opportunity to much more students. But there's something that I would like to mention. I also didn't have time to put more information in the slide I presented about the route, the pathway from high education to higher education, because we really have to think more on, and we have to have a law system aligned to that, to the nanos for ninis, but not, well, it could be nano for nini, it could be a course of 2 months, or you can go to Coursera or EDX or whatever, and that's it, you can do something like that. But really, in a formal way, the government can really look at that model and try to put a formal way of having these courses as the first step of what could be the year that you are mentioning. It could be in 1 year, something that is the first step of something. If you are going to be in cybersecurity, or you are going to be an expert in Python, and you want, okay, you have the first step that is 1 year, and 1 year is a lot of hours that you can be coming to get a job, of course, and that step, I really think that we have to work on that. What has been happening in Peru is that you have these careers of 2.5 years, or at least 2.5 years, to be a technical, a vocational career. And we also have to look at that much more. Careers of 2 years, for me, the best would be to think about 2-year careers of technical or vocational education. It's higher education, and there is a need of so many different types of jobs that you can really find there. With these specific 2-year programs in of course, software development and cybersecurity and data science and networking and cloud, and et cetera, right? So I think that's something to look at and to push, and why not to present a proposal? That's another thing to try to work on, because we have these late institutos that is working now nice, and we are going to be having the IDEX, Institutos de Excelencia, 1 per region. Like the high performance, el COAR, Colegio de Alto Rendimiento, now we are going to be having something like Institutos de Alto Rendimiento, IDEX, in each region, and we have, of course, to update those careers and to include the tech careers much more than anything, and we are far from that. So any proposal would be another opportunity for you all to think about designing that proposal. Okay.
I think we are out of time. Thank you so much, Lucia. Please, one last applause for her. you.